Welcome to a lovely fall morning here in Atlanta, Georgia, and this episode of How's Your ePresence? I am Mark Galvin, your host. This show is produced by ePresence, and we are thrilled that you are here. Here's what we do here. We talk about digital marketing secrets. We try to help you do something a little better in your digital marketing space. Sometimes we veer a little bit out of the lane, but we never veer that far. As a matter of fact, last show, we talked about cybersecurity. We had an expert join us and discuss cybersecurity. So we're always looking for content that really can help business owners do their jobs a little better, or marketing people for that matter. We've also talked about how music can make you a more successful business person, as well as trying to grow your reach through organic growth on your social media. All our shows are live. We're always running shows on either Tuesdays or Thursdays. Tuesdays are at 10 and Thursdays are at 3 o'clock. If you're tuning in live, we'd love to see that little number pop up on the screen. And when you're there, send us a comment. I better click over to the comment screen. You can drop a question for our guest and we will throw it at them. In fact, we'll put your comment right on the screen so everybody knows that how great your question is. So if you have a question, let us know. We'd love to throw that at our guest. Today, we're going to talk about another great part of digital marketing. We've gotten into this before. My feeling is you can never talk about SEO enough. Everybody has a good a slant on it. Sometimes we find it. I think we're doing this. We're getting better and better and better guests to talk about SEO. So we're going to talk about SEO again. We're going to talk about how to solve digital marketing challenges. We're going to figure out a better way to track your ROI on advertising. And we're going to talk about something I'm really interested in. That is, how do you maximize your YouTube and podcasting channels so that they can achieve your mission a little better? As a reminder, the first time watching this show, be it live or recorded, hit that subscribe button. It's on this side. Hit that subscribe button. That way you know when we go live. You can pop in, see what we're talking about, and ask a question. Today, we have a great show for you. Our guest today is Ryan Williams with the Websuasion Group. So just like Persuasion, but Websuasion Group. He is the president and founder of that group. He also founded Capocus. I should have asked him how to say this. We'll find out when he comes on. Capocus Studios. He is a 25-year expert in application development and has 30 years of experience in AV production. Plus, he has his own band. I think he spends 5 nights a week outside the house performing in front of live audiences and making $20 for his appearance. But here's the thing, the important thing you need to know about Ryan is that he knows what he's talking about. And it's great. We have an experienced person to talk about application development that can describe it really well. And that's quite a talent. So we're excited that he is here. So just a reminder, if you have a question, ask us a question. Throw it up on the screen. There we go. Ask us a question. We'll send it over to our guest and you can take control of the show yourself. Well, I think that's enough. Let's see if we can get Ryan to land on the screen here. Let's see. Is he there? There he is. Hey, Ryan.
Hey,
welcome.
Mark. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, I'm glad to have you here. You and I, we know each other through networking groups here in Atlanta. I had the personal experience of seeing some of your work on a website that you and I both, well, you developed it. I get to use it. So I'm glad to be connected with you because I got to see your work before I got to know you. We chatted the other day. So I'm impressed with your stuff. So I appreciate you making the time to join us.
No, thank you so much. Yeah. That was a fun project.
I don't think it's done yet, is it?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Web development is never done. So if it's working, it's never quite done. You're always adding new stuff to it. So
that's good stuff. And the interesting thing about doing web development like you're doing is a good company is not going to just set it free and say, all right, I'm done, I'm out, see you later. This is probably not on the script, not something I was going to ask you, but that's an important thing to make sure you ask if you're going to have somebody do web development for you. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, not only that, I mean, the whole point of web development is to maximize profitability. So if you're not able to do that, then you need to not be doing it in the first place, right? So I mean, there's a lot of software as a service out there and things like that that you can use as an alternative to custom software. Everybody doesn't need it, but when you do need it, what you're trying to do is always maximize efficiency, reduce your labor cost, reduce your any of your cost that you can, and maximize productivity and profitability, which a lot of times will mean bringing in new income streams and things like that. So we're always adding and refining a project like that.
Oh, that's so cool. All right, so I just did the wide shot, so all of us can see. For those of you that are listening on the podcast, you should check this out. Ryan officially has the very best microphone of any of our guests of all time. And it looks like you're in a studio. So do you have your own? Look at this. This is so cool. Lots of equipment there. What are you doing there?
We do everything from audio video production for marketing clients. And it was Capocus Studios. Everybody always gets that wrong.
I'm so sorry. I should have asked you that.
No, it's fine. When you name your company, be careful about picking a name people can pronounce. That's one of the early learning core things we did. But Capocus is from Capocus. It's a Bugs Bunny reference.
Oh, very cool.
Hocus Pocus, Abracapocus. Yeah. So, but no, we do a lot of video production for our marketing clients, usually marketing agencies, actually, that will be doing anything from evergreen webinars to YouTube series and things like that. Stuff that,
Quite cool.
Like you would be able to use at ePresence for promoting your clients.
Way cool. Well, let's get into it. We have so much content, and you are one of those guests that, I could probably keep you on for 2 hours. You don't have that amount of time, and our guests don't have that kind of patience. So we're going to drill it into 30 minutes of quality content here. So let's kick off about YouTube and podcasting. I am extremely interested in this. How can people maximize YouTube channel and podcasting channel? There's also, content, air quotes, content development. How do you maximize that for SEO and social media?
One of the things that we've started to realize in the last really year and a half, 2 years, has been the kind of combination of what you can do with taking a podcast and video, doing exactly what you're doing right now, videotaping it, and then also having a landing page like your show notes or whatever that has a full transcript of that podcast. So, I mean, you're getting 3 things that are all different and very important in one shot. So it's a way to really maximize the content and use it in multiple ways. I got a question. I'm going to stop you there. Yeah.
Don't tell anybody this. I'm going to confess for something. We don't put the transcript on our podcast channels or YouTube for that matter. Why is that a good idea? I think I know, but why is that a good idea?
So this is where we kind of get into the SEO side of things.
Yeah.
The more text content that's relevant, and when you have a conversation like this, everything's relevant to the topic, right? So using that transcript as text gives Google a lot of information to use and helps them to better place you in the search engine results. And likewise on YouTube, putting the transcript, I mean, there actually is a way on YouTube that it automatically will do kind of a decent transcript of the whatever your video is. But if you upload your own transcript, you can really control that, and that also improves the search results for YouTube itself.
All right. How or what service do you recommend for transcripts? Because I have a feeling you're not going to type your own transcript. Something tells me.
No. There's a lot of automated service out there. And they're not terribly expensive either. You do have to, they're not perfect because it's AI. Teamy is who I tend to use. TEMI, I think. You may be looking at like, $5 for a 30-minute transcript or something like that. It's not too bad. And then, you'll need to spend some time going through and correcting, especially if you have someone with a really thick accent or something, it's going to get some things wrong.
All right. So aren't there some services out there where literally a person is going to type it?
There are. Those are more expensive, but those are, and I don't know that they're necessarily more accurate. So,
wow.
Yeah, sometimes they're not, because they're using labor from all over the world, and they don't understand the local colloquialisms and stuff like that. So I mean,
I'm impressed you got that word out.
They're
not going to be able to spell that.
No, I can't. I will never be able to say it again. But yeah, so I mean, we found there's like about a 95% accuracy rate with the automated ones, and then you can just go through and clean it up.
Got it. All right. So what we do with all of our shows is we always write a little blog where we highlight what we thought was most important from the show. We drop that on our blog channel. And then a link to the actually it's not even a link. We embed the video on our blog.
Absolutely.
Should we go below that and say full transcript and just drop it in there?
It will ultimately help you from an SEO standpoint, probably, because you'll have that much more. It's like so part of the SEO challenge is, it's like your competition. It really depends on the keyword you're going after. So if somebody, as long as you have 500 words of content minimum, that's considered, anything below that would be considered by Google to be thin content. So it's not going to rank very well. So as long as you have 500 words, you're probably okay, but you want to look at the competition for that keyword. If a lot of the page one results, if it's a highly competitive keyword, there may be articles that have 2,500 words on there. And if it's well-written content, then you're going to have a hard time beating that. So you really have to have more words, better written words, better scoring better scoring page algorithm altogether with your metadata and everything. There's a lot of components that go into that score that you can use to benefit that page.
All right, good. The thought comes to mind, and this is probably a confirmation more than anything, and that is, I know that most people are not going to read the transcript.
No.
And so the goal is really what we're doing here is you're just speaking to the algorithm from Google, period.
Right.
And at the beginning of every one of our shows, we should have a list of the words that we're really focused on from an SEO perspective and try to sneak those in if possible.
Yes. And in fact, do a little research ahead of time. I mean, with the podcast, it's a little more difficult because it's really depending on your guest and what their knowledge is, what you're going to talk about. But you can sort of shoehorn into your SEO, especially things that are relevant to ePresence, and that is you're going to talk to the guest about how can we utilize these keywords and make these work into our strategy. So, because ultimately what you're trying to do is get a click on that button, that call to action button too.
You bet. Okay, so for the transcript, social media. All right, we got that in.
Yep.
So let's go to the next question here. Unless you have something else you want to mention there, I think that was awesome.
Go ahead. No, that's fine.
What are some common mistakes that people make with SEO marketing? And there is SEM, right? This is search engine marketing. So we are actually talking about SEM. What are those common mistakes that you've been seeing?
Well, I mean, the biggest mistake is the design of the website initially to begin with, right? So a lot of people, when they start a business, they think of a website as like, this is basically my digital brochure. So they design the content like they would a brochure, and they don't design it like a search engine is going to deliver it to people. So most people are not, unless you're just wanting people to look at your business card and type in your domain name and come straight to your website. That's not the experience that most people are going to have. Most people are going to be searching, and your prospects that you want are going to be searching for a solution to something, for a keyword phrase, and landing on a part of your website. If you're not structuring your website to get those keywords page by page first, then you're going to be struggling from an SEO standpoint to get any organic results.
So this is a classic cart before the horse type of question, right? Or the solution is better. So it is natural. I want to start my business and I'm going to build my own website, and I pop onto Wix, and nothing against Wix, right? Pop onto Wix and I start building a website. But what you're saying is I need to do my research first to find out what my keywords are in my field and make sure those words are all over every single page.
Yeah, to give you an idea, we'll put 20 to 30 hours of research into a client's website before we start even suggesting what the pages on the website should be.
Get out.
No, seriously. So we'll go through and we'll look at every potential. First, we'll start, with the client, talking to them about, okay, who are your competitors? That we can look at, see what they're doing and see what's working and not working for them. What do you think people are searching for your solution? What do you think they're typing in? And then we can take all of that input and go into several different tools, Moz and Google AdWords keyword research tools, stuff that's available to anyone, by the way. It's, these are not expensive tools, to go in and type in those suggested keywords and see what we get back, see what the actual results are. So we're looking for search volume, and then we're looking for things like ad competition. Even if the client that we're working with, even though we're looking at it from an SEO standpoint, we do have interest in what works and doesn't work from a pay-per-click standpoint as well, because we can look at that, like, what is the competition rate for this keyword? If it's high, well, it's probably a pretty good keyword. What are they paying per click? What's the maximum rate they were willing to pay? If it's $2, okay, that might be an okay keyword. If it's $46, well, that probably is a very good keyword. So a lot of these things we can use to help us make decisions on how to prioritize what keyword phrases.
Oh, so this is really interesting. So if somebody's paying $46 for a keyword, that's a word you need to put all over your website.
Possibly. So and it depends on what the results of that search is. So you would do a search yourself and see, are my competitors showing up here? So if it's your competitor that's paying $46 a click, it's because they've discovered this is the key phrase that it may be a low search volume phrase even. It may be only getting 100 clicks a month, right? But if it's 46, or I've seen some that's like $400 a click.
Shut up.
No,
people
seriously.
Are literally paying $400 a click?
It depends on whether it's worth it to them. So if this is
unbelievable,
if a sale to them is $200,000, then they'll pay $400 a click.
Oh, that makes sense,
right? So if it's like an IBM or a Cisco or something like that, then sure, they're going to pay $400 a click. If that keyword is the thing that their end customer who's ready to buy is typing in, and they're willing to make that payment. Now the trick is with SEO is
I would choke.
Right, that crazy ad cost. Let's shift that into organic search results. So let's get away from having to pay every month for every click, and slowly get into where we're showing up at the top organically, which gets better clicks than ads in the first place. So
I think that makes total sense. Wow.
Or getting on the map. That's another thing. Like when you do a search and you have Google Map pops up and he's got like the top three reviewed vendors at the top. That's the first thing that anybody starting a new business wants to try to get into. Get as many reviews in Google so you can get to that. It's not something that we do, but that's, that I don't know, that maybe even an ePresence thing. But
we don't do that, but we'll add it by next week. No, I'm just kidding.
But you don't even have to necessarily have a website to be able to place in that, and that's the first place people click. So, but if that map shows up in the results, that's also an indicator that that's a good potential search term for us.
All right. Okay, this is good. So, to avoid the common mistakes in search engine marketing, you want to do the research, got to have good copywriting. You just shared that. Yeah. You want to make sure that you've got all the right words. It's really get the words first and then have good copy.
Best tip I can give anybody, go to hemingwayapp.com and do whatever it says. So Hemingway.
Well, of course, Hemingway, right? Hemingwayapp.com.
It's free. You just copy paste
Shut
your text.
The front door.
Yeah, you copy paste your text in. It will highlight things in red that are complex sentences. It'll highlight them in yellow if they're semi-complex. It'll tell you when you're using passive voice. All of these things, adverbs, and unnecessarily complex words, things like that. The counterintuitive aspect of SEO is that you want to get your readability score down to a grade of 6 to 8. 6 to 8th grade. Okay. Because from Google's perspective, they want to serve the broadest community possible. And your average person who searches on Google, likely your average client, is going to have a read level of 6 to 8, or attention span level at the very least of 6 to 8. They're not going to sit there. They're not reading
second
a novel.
Or third.
Yeah, they're not reading a novel. They're not going on the web to read a novel. They're going on the web to get a solution, and it needs to be clear and simple as possible. Hemingway had a reputation of very short, very direct sentences, very punchy. So it works well for marketing copy. So I have a lot of copywriters who hate it, but because it's a certain way of writing that not everyone loves. But Hemingwayapp.com. Yep.
That's a good tip. I haven't heard of that. So that's awesome. And the last thing on website development is the design, which I think, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of people start there. They think, oh,
Yeah.
it's got to look good. And
Well,
that's
it's really,
you have it as third.
it's really a matter of who they go to, right? So they're going to a designer to build a website. I mean, we have this problem in the development side too. There's people don't understand the difference between a web designer, a web developer, and SEO is a completely different thing. So these are different roles. So the assumption is usually that if you're going to a web designer, you're going to get a website that's going to perform in SEO, and it's probably not, unless they're a very specialized kind of web designer. They probably haven't even studied SEO, don't even approach this process this way. They care about the aesthetics. They're worried. They have it's not to belittle them either. I mean, they have a very important role. It is very important to know where to place your call to action buttons and stuff so that they get the most clicks. But my concern more is getting people to your page in the first place. They take it from there. So the designer really takes it after I've gotten somebody to your page. That's the designer's role. So that's why it's important to have all of this SEO stuff first, because if you're not getting people to your page, I don't care how great it's designed.
It's not going to work. Yeah.
Not going to do anything.
So I think that I think the web design is makes sense. I really want to highlight this. You said, web designers are different from web developers from SEO. They are three distinct skills.
Very distinct. Yeah.
So it's a good idea to come to
with crossover. I mean, they do similar things, but that's why it's confusing.
Yeah, there are some graying edges without a doubt.
Yeah.
But I bet the web designer on average is going to be someone who is who comes from a creative background, creative drawing, creative arts background.
Photographers, illustrators, they're
great. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's a bit of a niche. Web developers would be you, I'm guessing. You're like that. Not to say that you can't do design. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not great at it though. So I mean, that's the thing. Is like I know my limitations, and I know how I want something to look, but getting it to look that way, I have to like communicate to somebody who has a more artsy side to it. So I have high expectations, but if I were the one doing it, number one, it would take me 3 times longer than it'd take them.
Right.
And number 2, it would not ever meet my standards.
So I'm guessing you're a lot like me. When you see it, you don't like it.
Right. And I can tell them what we want, but it's just making it happen sometimes is a little difficult. And the other thing is, so a web designer is going to be very, very aware of different browsers and how they behave from the CSS is what they typically, the code they write. It's scripting really, HTML and CSS. They'll dabble a little bit in programming with JavaScript, but we get very heavy into that. Developers are much more logical. We're dealing with complex layers and layers of programming from the user interface all the way back to the database. Whereas a designer is typically, most designers are installing a WordPress and manipulating a theme on top of that.
Yeah. So here's a design thing. I was working on Jotform last night, using Jotform to collect data for a nonprofit work that I'm doing that I do on the side. How is it that we always end up all this free work that we do? Anyway, so I'm helping a nonprofit, and I was really bummed because on the screen the check boxes for the multiple choice were big squares. On my phone they were teeny tiny little bullets, and I could not for the life of me figure out how to get the mobile version, because the mobile display on the screen said it had the big boxes, but when it was on actually my phone, it wasn't. And that's what you're talking about. That's that back end web developer stuff.
Well, actually, that would be more of the web designer side of things. So it's a little more. So that's where the crossover is. Yeah.
That's me.
That I don't know what I'm talking about. That is a responsive web design thing that you would really the front end, what we call it, the UI developer. If they're doing programming, they're a UI developer that knows the designer stuff, but doesn't. But we're programming everything. We're not taking a system like WordPress and modifying it. We're starting from scratch.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, I'm checking the timeout. We're at 24-ish minutes. I am going to ask you another question. We may run a little over, so don't feel rushed. I just want to tell you that, because if you're looking at the clock there, you don't feel like I'm going to jump in here. What are some of the typical errors that companies make in their digital marketing? I think this is very interesting, because digital marketing is that agita that owners of companies or marketing directors, the people that are stroking the check, that are responsible for picking a supplier to do that work. they get a little worried when they're looking at digital marketing. What are those challenges? What are those mistakes that are made that they should avoid?
Well, I mean, digital marketing is such a broad term. It encompasses a lot of things, and I think that's part of the challenge, is that everything in the web is very specialized. So when you go to a company, you might be going to a branding company that's very specialized in making sure that you're communicating to your customers and that you look a certain way and you're presenting a certain voice.
Right.
They may not necessarily have the technical background. So for instance, like a lot of our clients are marketing companies. We don't consider ourselves a marketing company specifically. We're more of a background company for marketing companies. So we're doing research, we're providing technical specifications, and then we're actually going in and configuring everything to work. So one of the big problems that companies have is getting the right people involved, or thinking that they can go to a one-stop shop and get it all done. They probably can't. Those usually don't exist, right? But someone good is going, especially like we're both in referral networking and stuff, they have partners that they work with, right? So I don't have my own writing staff. I have people that I work with, right? I bring in. I don't do branding myself anymore. I have branding companies that I use. Or they'll use me, they'll bring me in to do the research and stuff and configure things. Biggest mistakes from my perspective, one of them comes up a lot: companies buying a bunch of domain names and trying to throw up a bunch of different websites because they think the domain name is going to make a difference. For instance, I'm a pressure washing company, and I pressure wash in Sandy Springs and Roswell and so forth. So I buy Roswell pressure washing and Sandy Springs pressure washing and Atlanta pressure washing. Well, what they're doing is
bad.
That's terrible.
Sounds kind of brilliant.
It does, and that's why they do it. But think about it. You're putting a lot of effort, especially if you're trying to get search engine traffic, organic search engine traffic, and not pay-per-click ads. You're bifurcating your efforts.
My gosh, that's a word. Say that again. Bifurcating. That's one of our search words.
There you go. You are competing with yourself, right? And
that makes total sense.
And one of the things that is a problem with that is it's very, very hard for small businesses to achieve something called domain authority. And it's only done by having a lot of links coming in and a lot of good content. And if you're spreading that out over multiple domains, you're never going to achieve anything higher than maybe a domain authority of 15 or something like that. And so
Can I challenge you?
Mm-hmm.
All right. This would be the challenge I would have is in just thinking out loud here. I'm going to have a primary website, and my primary website's where it's the only thing I'm publishing. Nobody's going to see those other websites, but I buy all those other domains and they redirect to this page.
Sure.
Is that still bad?
It's not bad at all. It doesn't give you any search engine benefit. Nobody's going to ever see those domains. When you would do that is if, for instance, for like you, when you're doing a podcast and you want to have something, you've got maybe Websuasion, which is, or Capocus, which how do you spell that? Somebody's got to pick it up very quick. So you can have a domain that I would consider a domain alias that is something like, learn to market or whatever it might be, or learn your ePresence or whatever. And that would direct to the new domain. So it's only really for print ads, for podcasts, for anything, videos where you might be saying it out loud. And you've got some complicated domain. The other cool thing about having those would be you can point them at specific pages on your website. There are good uses for those.
Okay, so there's a strategy that goes with it.
Sure,
there's a strategy that can make it worthwhile.
But you just don't want to have separate websites set up for them, because then you're fighting with yourself.
All right, that's awesome. I knew this was going to happen. I really want to ask you all these other questions.
I can always come back later.
Well, you just took the words out of my mouth. This has been good. And the reason that I like what you've shared, and for all of you listening, this is the type of guest that we love to have on. He has so many things, because I know what's going to happen. Morgan and I meet after the show and we write our blog. And Morgan's going to say he shared so much stuff. And there's all this stuff, let's call it, right? There's a technical term. There's all this stuff that you shared that is not just dancing around. It's very, very specific, like HemingwayApp.com. That is extremely valuable. Ryan, I appreciate you being here for that reason. You gave great quality content to our audience. and that's a big deal. We're going to really play this up because this is such good information, and I would love to have you back. So
Awesome.
You and I, fortunately, our paths cross often. So I think that we can keep these last couple questions here that we didn't get to, and those will be the tee up, and then there's other things to get into.
Sure.
Every time I have a guest on that I think this is somebody I need to hire, that means that I think you had quality content. And I'm sitting there thinking, how can I hire this guy to do the work on my website in the future? So,
thank you.
Good stuff, man. Ryan, where do you want people to find you? Where's the best place for people to go?
The best place is websuasion.com, websuasion.com, like persuasion. And you can also find us on Twitter and Facebook and all kinds of places like that.
Awesome. Rock on. Well, everybody listening and watching, we're going to put this in the show notes. We'll have all of the links to all of the places you can find Ryan at Websuasion. He does have the record of giving us the most number of links.
I apologize.
To all of his pages. I swear there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different places that you can find him.
It's probably not all of them.
Did we just talk about don't what was that word?
Bifurcate. Yeah. Well, that's a little bit, as you know, with social media, that's a little different thing. You're trying to
it's totally different.
Connect people where they go. So
that's right. Yes, exactly. You need to be where people are.
Exactly.
And I think that you're doing a great job. Ryan, good stuff. Thanks for being having a good sense of humor with me too.
Sure.
And laughing at my jokes, even though they're bad. I appreciate you. Hang out. Love to do a little quick recap at the end.
Sure.
And but appreciate you being here, my friend.
Thank you, man.
So for the rest of you folks, good stuff. I tell you what, having Ryan here today was a home run. What's also great is you could hear him so well. Sound is everything. You may have a video that you're doing, but if you don't have good sound, you're less likely to engage your audience. So having a great microphone like Ryan has is extremely important. People will tolerate a little bit of bad video, but they don't tolerate bad sound. Thanks for being here. And how's your ePresence? What do we do at ePresence? We're produced by ePresence, and we offer personal, company, individual training and webinars all about social media. You heard something that Ryan said that I want to recap, and that is if you hire a generalist to do all your stuff, you're probably going to find that some of those pillars are going to be weaker. We focus on social media. That's all we do. We just focus on social media. So when you're hiring somebody to do your website and you need somebody to work on your social media, come see us. We price ourselves in a way that it makes good sense for you to have us work with you on a long-term basis. We also help out individual profiles. So take Ryan, for example. Ryan has Websuasion. He could have social media running for Websuasion. What about him? He needs to support that brand because you saw how good he represents his brand. Your team's the same way. Make sure your executive, your leadership, the founders and such, make sure that they're active on social and doing well. If you need help with that, we do that work too. How's Your ePresence is everywhere. We are on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and we I can't even say that word. Morgan, you need to type that word in the comments so I know how to say it next time. We are everywhere. So make sure you subscribe to wherever we are. And that, I think it's over. No, it's on this side. Hit that subscribe button down there. Morgan, you there? There we go. Hit the subscribe button so that you know when we go live. If you're a podcast listener, you can go to our website, epresence.me/podcast, and you can find out where we are. We're on all channels. If you're looking for us on your iTunes, we are there on iTunes. You just look for How's Your ePresence. You'll track us down. We're even on Spotify. I love that. Being on Spotify makes me feel very important. We provide content every single week, so we're always running new shows, but we're dropping the podcast on Friday, so you can always catch a new show there. Our website is epresence.me. That's epresence.me because it's all about you. This show is produced by ePresence, and our producer, writer, and extraordinaire is Morgan Wood. Morgan, thank you for all the work you do. Until next time, for my guest, Ryan Williams, I am Mark Galvin, and this has been How's Your ePresence?